Howdy my totally as always tubular gamers, we're back with, you guessed it, another ranking video, and today it's going to be a bit of a ranking review kind of video on the Samba De Amigo series. Now, what is Samba De Amigo? I'm sure you're saying. Now, Samba De Amigo, it's a rhythm game series developed and published by SEGA. Now, Samba De Amigo draws heavily from Latin American culture, and its gameplay involves the player using controllers shaped like maracas or motion controls to match a series of patterns displayed on screen. The music is made up of primarily popular Latin music rather than common or traditional samba, and as the series went on, more and more mainstream music would get added. When it comes to rhythm games, Samba De Amigo is one of the most unique ones out there. Just the fact that you use a maraca as a controller is a pretty good gimmick. I mean, it's not the most complex idea. You shake maraca and watch monkey dance, but these games are actually a ton of fun. I've always loved rhythm games, and this game, it has a unique gimmick, lining all the patterns up and shaking the maraca when you're supposed to. It's quite fun. It's a unique gimmick. The style of this game is great. It's incredibly unique, and it's got a bunch of character and personality to it. And then the music, the music just absolutely slaps. It is fantastic no matter which samba game you're playing. I really actually enjoy the music. For the most part, it is licensed music, but the track lists in these games, it's actually right up my alley. Obviously, it's very different from the last rhythm game series I talked about, Guitar Hero, but yeah, the music is pretty solid in these games. Now, when it comes to how many samba games there actually are, well, it's a little interesting. The original game released on Dreamcast back in 2000, and that was kind of a port of the arcade game. And then the game was actually re-released on the Wii in 2008, but there was enough little bonuses here and there to the point where I'd give it its own entry here. And then, I can't believe I'm saying it, there's a brand new Samba De Amigo that released here in 2023 for the Switch. It also was released on phones, and I know it's coming to MetaQuest at some point, but yeah, we have a new Samba De Amigo Party Central. And so I thought I would come in and, give all three of these games quick little reviews, rank them worst to best, let you know my thoughts on them. Again, I love rhythm games. I love pretty much everything SEGA puts out. And Samba De Amigo, I've got some good memories with the original game, and I was just shocked that a new one released. And I know everybody's talking about Starfield and Armored Core and all these other big games, but no. I want to take just a couple minutes today to talk to you about the Samba De Amigo series. And if you've been taking a shot every time I say Samba De Amigo and will continue, you are going to die. Unless you're taking shots of water, then you're going to piss your pants. So I don't advise that. You know what, this intro, it's gone on long enough. Ranking these three games worst to best, seeing how they all stack up against each other, just my thoughts on them. Like, share, subscribe, got a Patreon going on as well. Let's just get right into it. Now, of the three Samba De Amigo games, it's pretty obvious which is the weakest. And so here we have the original Samba De Amigo, developed by Sonic Team actually, and released on the Dreamcast in 2000. Samba De Amigo was very different from not only every rhythm game at the time, but almost every game on the Dreamcast. The Dreamcast had a ton of crazy, unique, wacky games with a bunch of gimmicks and peripherals like Sega Bass Fishing with the fishing rod, or Seaman with the microphone, and here comes this game with this dancing monkey and a pair of maracas. And outside of the other Samba games, there's really never been another game like this. It's still very unique, and you can immediately see from the moment you turn this game on, there's a bunch of personality and character and charm. And I'm gonna sound like a boomer here, but they just don't make them like they used to. This game is just brimming with character. And while we're on the topic of presentation, I think this game, it looks great for the Dreamcast. There's, again, a ton of personality, and it looks super unique, and there's just really nothing else that looks like it. It has a solid frame rate, and I got nothing but high marks for the presentation. Now, when it comes to playing this game, there really are two control methods. You can use your Dreamcast controller, which works fine enough, but what the game really sold itself on, especially the arcade machine, was the fact that you would use maracas. Once you choose a song and it starts up, the player is guided by the on-screen graphics and must shake those maracas at high, middle, or low heights with the beat of the music, and occasionally strike poses with the maracas held in various positions. Obviously, you can't do all these motions with a controller. You can play this game just fine on a controller, but not only is it going to be much harder, but trust me, it's nowhere near as fun with a controller versus using the actual maracas. In the end, though, what does the gameplay come down to? It comes down to a lot of shaking. You are shaking these maracas like a madman. Sometimes you're shaking them in certain directions. Sometimes you got to make shapes with them, but a lot of the time, you're really just shaking them as fast as you can. As you hit the notes, and do well, Amigo will actually be joined by a bunch of friends and people, and if you suck, then Amigo will actually be by himself and nobody wants to dance with him, which is kind of sad. Now, something vital to rhythm games is the difficulty. You know, if the game's way too easy, it's not going to be the most exciting. And Samba De Amigo, yeah, this is not an easy game. You'll be doing a lot of shaking, but not only your hand's going to get really tired from that shaking, but the game actually is quite challenging. And if you're playing with a controller, it gets particularly challenging. Now, the original arcade release didn't have that many songs, but the Dreamcast version does have a decent amount of songs, and this was actually where I first heard a bunch of songs like the Macarena. I won't lie to you, the first time I ever heard the Macarena was from Samba De Amigo, which is kind of sad, but you know, I love the Macarena. I mean, I don't know how you couldn't love it. It's awesome, but there's a bunch of other good music here, like Tub Thumpin', like Take On Me, like La Bamba. There's a bunch of good stuff here. Obviously, it's not for everybody, but I think the song list is pretty decent in this game. In addition to just playing through all of the music and getting high scores, there actually is a party mode, you know, like a little multiplayer mode with these mini games. I never really mess around much with these ones, but they seem cool enough. And then the game also has a challenge mode where the player is given specific goals in order to proceed through these stages. There's actually 25 stages. Most of them are like get a certain letter grade, don't miss so many beats, or get a certain score to pass the challenge. I have not ever gone through all of them, but you know, it's cool that there's 25 of these. Overall, Samba De Amigo, it's a swell rhythm game. It's a really fun time, but it is a bit of a hard sell. See, playing with the controller, not only is the game harder, but it's just nowhere near as fun. It's great with the maracas, but without the maracas, I don't really know how much I'd recommend this game. At this point, I think this game might just be best for like collectors, since you're going to need a Dreamcast, the game, and maracas, and I'm sure that's not cheap. There's no way that's cheap. But hey, if somehow you come across all of these, or you know somebody, then yeah, it's a blast. But thankfully, we do have the much more accessible Wii version of Samba De Amigo coming out in 2008. It was developed by Gearbox Software of Borderlands fame. They came up with the idea to port the game to the Wii and use the Wii remote and the nunchuck as the maracas. And Sega loved the idea, so here we are with Samba on Wii. Now, something worth mentioning is that the original Samba De Amigo actually got a second release in Japan known as version 2000, and it contained a bunch of new songs. It actually had a new character, Amiga, who has a tambourine. There's a new volleyball game. There's actually a survival mode. There's new challenges. And then the biggest addition was the new hustle mode, where you still have to follow the dots and shake the maracas in the correct location, but it's really done infrequently. Instead, the game is much more focused on doing the poses, and you'll be doing just a bunch of goofy poses. There's actually quite a bit of extra content in this new version, and America never got it until the Wii version came out. And so that's why I think the Wii version, yeah, it gets its own standalone spot on the list and its own little review, since it does add all of this in for the first time for people who live in North America. And yeah, this is not only the much more accessible way to play Samba De Amigo, but just the better way to play Samba. Like, no, you don't have the maracas, and it is a little different with the Wii remote and the nunchuck, but the game is still a ton of fun. The gameplay really is the same, and it really seems like this game was kind of tailor-made for the Wii with the amount of shaking you do. I mean, the Wii remote, you already shook it all the damn time anyway, so now it just makes sense with Samba. And it's a blast. You know, I thought it was fun in the 2000s, and I still think it's fun now. Like, the game is just a ton of fun. You know, it's not the most complex, it's not the most thought-provoking, but it's engaging, it's a good time, and there's a bunch of awesome music. The Wii version even has a bunch of new music. I mean, not everything returns from the original, but there's a bunch of music here. There's actually quite a lot of music. There's even a bunch of new stages that include like Sonic and Space Channel 5. It's really cool. The Wii version, it even has like a career mode that's exclusive. Yeah, it's just kind of the challenge mode, but it feels a little remixed. The game even had DLC. What Wii games had DLC? Samba De Amigo was the first retail Wii title to support the pay and play portion of Nintendo Wi-Fi connection as well. So there you go, setting new standards for all Wii titles going forward. Thank you, Samba. You are great. Speaking of pretty great, we got the presentation. It's been updated a little bit. It doesn't look a ton better, but it looks a little better than the original, and I really don't got any complaints with this one. In fact, I don't really have much complaints with Samba De Amigo on Wii. Like, it's still an absolute blast. It's way more accessible. It's cheaper. There's a ton of music here. There's a ton of fan service. If you like rhythm games and haven't tried this one, I don't really know what you're waiting for unless you really have no way to play this game, which would be a bit unfortunate. But yeah, a must play for rhythm game enthusiasts in my opinion, but a great time all around. And then we have Samba De Amigo Party Central releasing for the Switch. I still cannot believe this game came out. I didn't think we'd ever get another Samba, but here we are with a brand new game for the Switch, and oh, it's glorious. It's actually just fantastic. You know, if you like rhythm games, I think you're really going to enjoy this game. No, it doesn't have the depth of the challenge that, say, other rhythm games have, but it's a really fun time. And if you like the old games at all, like literally at all, I think you're going to like this game. I think the first thing worth noting is while the game does have a decent selection of Latin music, it definitely focuses more on pop music in general. But I will say I think the selection is pretty great, you know, with it being pop, I do actually recognize just about everything, and every game that has Chameleon is a good game in my book. But I was really surprised with some of the music in this game. Good Time, I love it, I really like you, TikTok, Just Dance, Let It Go, the Macarena comes back, Moves Like Jagger, Pompeii, Sucker, TikTok, You Give Love a Bad Name, and then of course the Sonic music. This game has Escape from the City, which I was not expecting at all, and I love it. Like this is just fantastic. I love this. The soundtrack, I think it's actually pretty good in this game. I know it is a bit different from the original, but you're not going to hear me complaining. Okay, but the song list wouldn't mean jack shit if the game was not fun or the mechanics or the motion controls didn't work. Thankfully, that's not the case. The game, it actually plays incredibly similar, basically plays the same as the original game. However, instead of using maracas or using the Wii Remote, you're using the Joy-Cons, and you know, it's got the HD rumble to really tell you what motions to make, which stance to be on, and I actually think it's great. I think gameplay wise, this is probably the best of the Samba games. It feels great, it's incredibly fun to play, and you know, it's a really fun throwback to motion control days. You know, I know so many people dunk on the Wii, I don't want no motion controls, and most of the time I do as well, but this is one of the few times where I welcome motion controls. I actually think it enhances the game. I think it makes it incredibly fun. You can play this game with a controller. I tried with a controller and I was like, no, this is not where it's at. This game is so much better with the motion controls. It's actually a blast. Not only is the game actually still a bit challenging and incredibly engaging and just kind of immersive with its Joy-Con implementation, but the game's going to give you a workout too. And you know, it had been so long since I looked like a dumbass while playing a game. Like I looked like a grade A jackass while I was playing this game, and my girlfriend was like, wow, you look really stupid while playing this rhythm game, but oh man, was it so much fun. So in this game, you know, there's not only 40 songs to play through with 4 different difficulties, there's some other game modes in here as well. There's the Stream a Go mode, which has Amigo trying to become a famous online streamer. This is just kind of the challenge mode from before. There's 80 challenges, yes, 80 now. And I won't lie to you, these get hard right off the bat where you can barely miss any notes or you just lose the whole thing. It is really not messing around. Multiplayer returns as well, and there's a lot more options here than the original game. There's competitive and cooperative 2-player modes. One of them is Showdown, where you face off against each other, but then there's also Love Checker, in which 2 players play together to see how compatible they are based on their performance. You know, this is going to tell you if your relationship is a bust. It all comes down to this game. This game will tell you everything. There's even 4-player online multiplayer, which is pretty awesome. And if that wasn't enough, there's the World Party, which is an 8-player online mode where you all go up against each other. Yeah, I couldn't believe how many online options there are with this game. They really want you to keep playing Samba, you know. As you play the game, you level up, and there's a bunch of customization options. Like, it's pretty cool. They want you to play this game quite a bit. There's all these modes. I'm glad with how much content there is in this game. You know, it's still that arcade fun that was fun back then, and it's still fun now. I think the gameplay is relatively timeless, especially if you like rhythm games, and I have absolutely no problem recommending this to folks that like rhythm games. The presentation, it's pretty sleek. I think it's good. It's not going to rock your cock off, but I think it looks nice. The game still has a good amount of personality and charm and character to it, and I think that there's enough content here to justify the purchase. You know, it's not a full $60 release, it is $40, and for some that might be a little high, but I think it's worth it. I think there's enough here to keep you interested, and the track list is good enough that you'll like it. So in conclusion, I think the Switch game, it's pretty fun. Hopefully it doesn't get totally buried under all these new releases, and I think it's worth trying. And it's crazy to see how much content we've really gotten from Monkey Shakes Maracas. But yeah, we've got a couple games here. They're all a blast. And it was cool to just come in and talk about these games. That's it for today's video. Let me know down below what you think or what you want to see me rank. Like, share, comment, sub. If you made it to this part of the video, comment. Hamtaro is in that old anime series. Would love to hear it. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good rest of the day.